Hey now, welcome to the Refreshing Thoughts podcast. I am your host, Chris Fresh, and I'm here to talk toys, geeky stuff, really whatever grabs my attention. And it has been a fun year. This isn't my last episode of the year, but I'm certainly going to be talking Christmas, which is one of my favorite topics. If you have the means for $5 a month, you can help keep the lights on the channel at patreon.com/ refreshing thoughts podcast / membership. You'll get early and ad-free access via the Patreon app to episodes. And yeah, it helps with StreamYard, which is really expensive. And of course, thank you to my good friends, The Shine Worldwide. The Shine, who did the awesome entrance music, as we've decided we're calling it, for Refreshing Thoughts. But I'm here to talk about Christmas. And a lot of you might go, "Oh, I hate Christmas and Christmas is lame. I'm sick of the music, etc., etc." But I'm going to talk to you about why I love Christmas and or the holidays, like whatever you celebrate. I'm not married to any one term as some seem to be. As long as you're having fun seems to be the most important thing to me. And sort of, I guess I was thinking about what am I going to talk about? I can talk about childhood memories. That's really easy, and I'm going to do that. I could talk about what Christmas is like now, and I'm going to do that. But what I thought was, as I was sifting through some images I wanted to share on the episode from my private life, that there really is a strong connection for me between my Christmas memories and how I collect as an adult. And I thought it might be interesting to talk about. Now, if there's one thing you should know from Refreshing Thoughts by now is I'm not well thought out. I'm not scripted. There are way more professional channels out there that get way more views, that put way more effort in. I'm sort of this is what I'm passionate about. I want to challenge myself doing a YouTube channel, and here I am. And I'm grateful that so many have come on board to support me and take in my content. And if you've gotten something from this, then to me, that's a win. So thank you. Click like and subscribe. That helps the channel grow. Share this if you enjoy it. But um, I, I try not to make this too mopey and sad, but I think sometimes out of sadness, beautiful things can come. And I'm going to talk about my childhood a little bit. I grew up in Melbourne, Victoria, in a housing commission, which I don't know, in America they call the projects. I'm not too sure on the terminology. I'm married to an American. You'd think I should just go ask her, but I think she's napping. But government housing is essentially what I grew up in. In 1956, Melbourne hosted the Olympics, and the athletes' village that they had set up in West Heidelberg, they turned into commission housing or government housing. And when I was a young man, my mum and dad got together in the mid to late 70s. Both of them really struggled with mental health. They met in a mental health facility, and mum had already had three children to somebody else. My father had never had any children, and I don't think particularly wanted to have children. And he had many brushes with the law, and they got together, and voila, they had me. And I was born on February 12th, 1979. So the reason I'm setting up that context is I was perfect age of 80s cartoons, toys, and all good things consumerism, like many of you are. And you know, growing up in a poor area, with parents that struggled with mental illness, perhaps before we had such an awareness and understanding of mental illness, it was just tough, is what you'd say, or people would say they were crazy, or emotions were flying high and stuff. Where now, there's a lot more empathy and understanding and medication and treatment and everything like that. But I back then it was just this is just what life is. And I always like to go, life sure could have been better, but it wasn't all bad. And mum passed away when I was 9. So some of my memories, it's hard. I don't Some people have great like, they can really remember a lot of their childhood. Some people can remember bits and bobs. That's sort of where I'm at with my memories of childhood. I've certainly got some strong memories and some not so strong memories and maybe some blocked out memories. But, one thing that has always stood out to me is a love of Christmas, which I still have to this very day. And, I think when I think about Christmas and, I've worked in retail. I work for a company that the busiest time of the year for them is Christmas, or peak as we call it. And I see a lot of people get down at this time of year. It's exhausting, it's tiring. And I think that morphs into not liking the season. Some people don't like the music, the stress of buying gifts, having to see family that maybe you don't particularly want to engage with, but you see them once a year. I understand and am empathetic towards all the stresses that Christmas brings. But there's a flip side to that coin. And the flip side to that coin is sort of where I reside. And where I reside is life's hard all year round, right? And Christmas is not any easier. But imagine if everything was sort of hard all year round, but there was this one time of the year where you have fond memories of when you were little. You're hearing the jingle jangle of sleigh bells, you're hearing this Christmas music, there are beautiful lights everywhere. And I really get enjoyment about giving people gifts, thinking about what to give them. Even if it's something as simple, and I'm late on my Christmas cards this year. I've been very busy, but I'm going to get them out. But even if it's something as simple as you're getting a letter in your letterbox, which nobody really gets anymore, you open it as a Christmas card. And just for those 2 seconds when you're opening it, you're going, it's nice that that person thought of me, even if they're just writing Merry Christmas, hope you have a great New Year. You know, a small gesture like that, to some will go, it's nothing, it's a waste of time, who cares? Postage is expensive, yada, yada, yada. Or you can go, oh, that was a really nice gesture. They thought of me in all this busy time and that. And my approach to Christmas has never been, I expect you to reciprocate. You know, I expect somebody to send me a Christmas card, or I want people to think of giving me gifts or prepare food or do anything like that. No, for me, it's I enjoy doing it for others. And in a way, in a selfish way, because it makes me feel good. I'm sure doing it for you, but I'm really doing it for me because I really get enjoyment from it, because it takes me back to childhood of perhaps when things weren't so easy, but there was this magical time, particularly in December. I've now stretched Christmas well into November, of where everything just seemed like it was going to be okay and it was exciting. Regardless of whether you got or I got everything I was hoping for at Christmas time, I was going to get gifts on Christmas Day, you know, and we didn't have enough money for that to be a constant thing. I always think of my kids, of I'm hopeless. If they wanted something, no matter the time of year, no matter what, I just bought it for them. You know, so I guess every day is Christmas. But they do share an affinity for Christmas because, that first weekend of November, our tree goes up. A lot of you will go, that's way too early. And I'm going to go, is it? Because it's a lot of effort to put up a tree, decorate, light things, light up your house. If I'm going to go to all that effort, or if Jesse's going to go to all that effort and we're going to do all of this, we at least want to get a bit of time out of all that effort. So we sort of, I guess the first weekend in November came from my eldest daughter, Stephanie, was born at the start of November. And one year she was like, for my birthday, I just want the tree up. It makes me feel happy having the tree up. So then I guess it's become the tradition of the tree goes up the first weekend of November. She doesn't particularly care whether it's before her birthday or after her birthday. In South Australia, where my father was from, and they have the awesome Christmas pageant, which was came out of a legendary department store called John Martin's there. And they had the Magic Cave, which was Christmas based and everything. And I've got great memories of that. They have this parade, and that's when they put up their trees. Is parade day, you put up your tree, and that's in November. So there's a lot of cool traditions. Um, and I think I want to show you some images of why, like, some of my fond memories of Christmas. Now, I obviously, it always blows my mind that our kids, are, like, there's not a day goes by where that doesn't seem there's an image of them like taken, or that where my generation and even generations after me, we didn't have photo, like, yeah, there's certain, like, I'm sure I didn't turn up in a photo between 1994 and 1997, it felt like. Like, there's periods of my life where there's not a lot of photos of me, and, there's gonna be a lot of people like that, and our parents' generations older, even more so, where kids today, like, they're constantly filmed, constantly photographed. There's gonna be this constant log of what everything looked like now, where back then, I love sometimes if somebody wildly drove around Melbourne with a handy cam in the 90s, of just filming the streets and everything. And they've uploaded it to YouTube, and I can watch it. It goes for like 40 minutes or something. And it's just amazing, the nostalgia that you feel of seeing, for me, Melbourne at a time where I was exploring the city and discovering comic book stores and toy stores, and it felt magical and everything, where now everything's sort of filmed. I know I'm rambling, but there. But to give you a bit of context, I'm going to show you my family. Yeah, things really haven't changed. So here I'm at my big sister Linda. She's the lady with her eyes closed, I think, in the sort of multicolored top there. She's got her husband Gary behind her with the dark hair, and she's leaning on my brother Martin, who's in the white shirt, and my eldest brother Frank is kneeling down with his wife Gina, and that's my mum in the photo. And I'm glad Dad's not in the photo. He's obviously taking it because I have very complicated relationship with my late father. And I don't have a lot of fond memories. Now, my family don't necessarily share the feelings towards my dad that I do, and that's up to them. But for me, not a fan. But we're at Linda's there, and you can see me in my little Santa hat. I think, you know, I, I loved Christmas even back then. Like, you can see that I'm happy there. And the reason I'm giving the context of my siblings, my mum, is these are the people that went out of their way, to make sure Christmas was great for me. Now, my siblings were older because, if you remember earlier, I said mum was in a previous relationship and had three children. So Martin is 14 years older than me. Linda is 15 to 16 years older than me, and Frank is 17 to 18 years older than me. And whilst my parents didn't have a lot of money, my dad was a factory storeman and my mum was a stay-at-home mum. I believe my siblings may have contributed financially to make sure Christmas was pretty good for their baby brother. And I really appreciate that. And they're getting old and grumpy, and I'm old and grumpy these days. And they've had children and now grandchildren, and my journey's still continuing with that. It's it makes me happy to sort of go back and look at those times because I I looked up to all of them, and to know that, you know, they went out of their way to make Christmas special for me, I really appreciated. So what was Christmas like in Australia in the 80s? Well, my memories, and everybody's memory is gonna be different, is, uh, television. So television, I can remember Agro's Cartoon Connection. If you're international, you won't have context for it. Google it, and you're probably going to find outtake tapes that got leaked, famously. But it was a puppet named Agro. Jamie Dunn was the guy that would handle him, and you had Anne Marie and stuff. So I don't know if Cartoon Connection was the first show to do this, whether the Early Bird show or even Hey Hey It's Saturday before that, when it was a morning kid show, like how they handled this. But my memories were, it felt like 2 weeks leading into Christmas, their regular cartoon programming switched to cartoon programming. And that's where they'd show The Little Drummer Boy by Rankin Bass, the Rankin Bass stuff. I'm all about Rankin Bass. The stop motion animation and the cartoons. So you had Frosty the Snowman, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, Santa Claus is Coming to Town, Little Drummer Boy. Um, I remember 70s. I don't know if it was a Jackson 5, but it felt like a 12 Days of Christmas cartoon. And, Christmas Comes to Pac-Land. You'd get the Flintstones, Christmas special, Yogi Bear's All-Star Christmas, the Garfield Christmas special. So all these Christmas cartoons would signal that this magical time is starting. Now, when it's not like now where you can just play them ad nauseum whenever you want, any time of the year. The He-Man and She-Ra Christmas special, you couldn't just play them all the time. So it was like a real signal that Christmas is here when that programming would switch over. And it would be exciting for me to go, yes, they've started showing their Christmas cartoons. That means the school holidays are about to begin soon. It was like a real cool time. And what some of the traditions we would do in my family is obviously we would go see Santa. And I wanted to show this. How good's the little chubby blonde kid with the side part in his ET shirt, freshly traumatized from seeing ET because that movie did make me cry. But yeah, I getting a photo with Santa was really exciting for me, something I did every year. I love looking at this photo and seeing those toy planes and the toy race car and stuff. And like, they're probably just crappy generic plastic stuff. But to a kid, you didn't care. It was like, oh, I'd love to get those planes. What I'm gonna go "Brrr" with for 2 seconds. But yeah, I always love going to see Santa. How short are my little booty shorts there? And tucked in t-shirt, I think. Like mum was cruel in how she dressed me. And look, I don't dress much better today. Here I am in a Team Santa shirt. This jersey is so comfy. But yeah, loved going to see Santa. And like really still do, every year we go to see a what they call sensitive Santa, the real Santa, real Father Christmas, real Santa Claus. My son's one of my sons has autism. My other son is has a lot of medical complications. Special needs is a catch-all that I sort of go with. If you don't like that term, well, that's fine. That's the term we use. And kind of, and it's hard and stressful to get a Santa photo. And True Fairies do out here, and Jason East Photography, who's amazing. They do Santa photos where it's just you in the room for that time. They give you like 10 minutes to get in there and get your photo with Santa. And it can be really a stressful time if you've got a special needs child. But the fact that they have this sensitive Santa scenario where you get time and you get a great Santa photo every year is amazing, and been going there for a long time. And yeah, the Santa photo is one of my favorite times of year still to this very day. Um, I, this makes me laugh because of how often we all eat takeaway food now. Like it's nothing. But in the 80s, I don't know if it was really expensive or a thing, but going to McDonald's was a real treat. Not just a I'm stopping in to grab a meal as we all do now, although I'm not big on McDonald's. But every Christmas Eve, mum and dad would take me out to McDonald's. And funny thing is, I think like mum and dad sort of dressed all fancy for it. We'd go to the Heidelberg McDonald's on Bell Street, which still stands to this very day, although they've changed it to the new boring looking McDonald's. Give me the roof. Um, they every Christmas Eve we would go out there, and this is how fancy it was. Dad clearly took a camera with him one year, and there's a photo of Mum and I on Christmas Eve, going to McDonald's. Those Sundays look pretty sweet. I do miss the look. I know the environment and everything, but plastic straws and plastic cups, like it's a good time. There's Mum all fancy, hoeing into some chippies. And there's me having a good time. But yeah, every Christmas Eve, it would be the tradition that we would go out to McDonald's. And that was another thing that signaled to me this special time of year was here. And yeah, and we've all got our own weird little silly traditions. Like to some people might be watching this and go lame-o and blah blah, but to me it was special. It was really cool. And yeah, like McDonald's was a big deal to me. And then uh, there would be it would be Christmas morning, and my memories of Christmas morning were it was probably a lot of cheap, crappy presents, but there were so many, and they were wrapped and everything, and everybody else's presents were there, and it felt magical. Now, StreamYard's got a photo limit, and I don't want to bore you all with all my childhood photos, but here's a very early image of me at Christmas. Now, that's my Nana Slee there. She was my dad's mum. And that's my brother Frank. He's not naked. He just got around in really short shorts. It was probably like 1983 or something. Like really early. There's me. I probably got a sand bucket and spade set. And I think Frank or somebody got a outdoor setting. So on the one of the slides, you can see a sort of wooden table there. I do vaguely remember that somehow. I've got a toy truck there. I think a cosplay police hat. I think there's a yellow machine gun there on the ground. But yeah, there's it just that wallpaper ended up going. I couldn't help but rip it as a kid, and I think the housing commission eventually just replaced it and painted the walls. But yeah, such fun memories, um, seeing that, like, it really did feel magical, and, I've I've told the story very famously of when I was a kid, Castle Grayskull was all I wanted. I had actually traded every single toy I owned for Castle Grayskull with a kid called Clinton that was older, and it was this big thing, and I remember mum and dad coming into my room, and I was like, "Oh, I've got Castle Grayskull," and they've looked at it, and obviously everything else was gone, and they were like, "What happened?" And, I explained this kid, worked out a valuable trade where I would trade every single thing I owned for Castle Grayskull, and they were like, "This is a bad deal," and we had to do the walk of shame where they went to his parents and said, "Your boy took advantage of our boy, and where you're handing everything back." So Castle Grayskull slipped through my fingers, and I begged Santa that year for Castle Grayskull, and there was a Castle Grayskull size box under the tree, and I was super excited, and I unwrapped it, and it was Snake Mountain. Um, and that's the other funny thing about cameras and photos and stuff. Like now, let's just retake the photo or take a million photos. No, this is the photo that lives on because it was one shot and done. Dad didn't realize my eyes were like, "Whoa." And there is me with Snake Mountain. You see an inflatable Santa if you remember them in the background. But as much as I love telling the story, I was disappointed it was not Castle Grayskull, and I was. And I wouldn't get Castle Grayskull until many years later. As a sort of teenager collector, I would go out and get myself a Castle Grayskull. But it's a really fond memory for me. And it would have been a big purchase for my family. It would have been a lot of money for us, a lot of money for anyone. And to get something like that was really cool. Snake Mountain's still important to me to this very day because of that. And, yeah, there is, you see those chairs there? They're the same as the chairs in the other photo. They've just been reupholstered, because you couldn't just afford to buy a new lounge suite. And what a material that they chose, that, light colored flower material. But yeah, but you see, like, I'm surrounded by gifts. I'm surrounded by fun. I'm like, it is my yearly toy arrival, not like here where I get so many arrivals. Who knows what I'm going to talk about any week on Refreshing Thoughts or Geek Dudes or something. Um, it it meant something to get something, and that's a really cool memory. Now, this is where I'm going to start putting up man boob warnings. As a chubby kid, times were tough, you know. And when you're just at home, you're just getting around in your jammies. It's summer here in Australia. You just want to live. So I had cheap, crappy jammies for years. My jacket would be unbuttoned, my gut would be hanging out, and photos got taken at Christmas time of me just hanging out in my jams. Okay, nobody was around. There was no girl was going to be showing any form of interest in me for at least another 12 years. So get off my back. But here I am, oh no, look, not the most flattering photo of a young me. But it wouldn't be flattering if I was sitting there with my shirt off now. But what I love about this photo is I'm a bit older, so there's not stuff everywhere. In the morning, it's probably just me and dad. Mum's passed on by this point, but you can see down on the how good's the ashtray. I don't know if you can see that in the very bottom of the pic. There's an ashtray with cigarette butts in there because somebody's been smoking inside. Mum used to smoke and she would pass from lung cancer at 45, which is why I have never smoked. And here I am at 46. But my brother Martin would smoke and stuff like that, and visitors probably did. So it's just a thing that you don't really see these days. Um, a power board with a million things plugged into it, absolutely, you still see in my house to this day. But I think what you're seeing there is a McDonald's calendar on the ground. And those stockings, remember those cool Christmas stockings that would just have junk and lollies and stuff in it? I would kill to get one of those plastic goodnesses. You used to sometimes get the really long ones with the mesh sort of down on them. That was really cool. There's some Ruffles chips, like a heap of Ruffles chips and stuff. Because I think I even m my physique would not indicate this, but just getting my hands on little small snack packets of chips and stuff wasn't an everyday occurrence. That was a special thing at Christmas. And that, it's funny, I look a bit like my son Connor there with my giant head. Um, but what I'm looking at there from memory is just a little handheld electronic game. And they were all terrible, but damn it, I was excited. But yeah, that is even that, I'm sort of sad there, mum's passed, and that, but Christmas was still special. Like those Christmas cards. It was nice to be given Christmas cards. Like, and that's what I mean. Like, I'm not trying to sell you on enjoying Christmas. You do you, but I'm explaining to you why I love it so much. Now after mum passed, um, my mum, like dad's Irish Catholic, but my mum wasn't particularly religious. And one really hot Melbourne day, a car breaks down in the front of our out the front of our house. We lived on Oriel Road in West Heidelberg, 289 Oriel Road. If you want to go dox me and go visit people, that the house is even knocked down now, the units there, so don't go harass those people. But a corner of Perth Street, if you really want to go do the freshness childhood tour, it's a bit of a sketchy area. Be careful. But a nun breaks down in front of the house. This is a 100% true story. This I remember very clearly. And my mum, it's a very hot day. And my mum goes, "Sister, do you want to come inside?" 'Cause she can see this nun's broken down. And she invites the nun inside and she gives her a cold drink and lets her make a phone call to get some help and stuff. And the nun got talking to mum. And the next thing I know, mum gets invited to church, St. Pius Church in West Heidelberg. And she takes me along and dad along. I'm sure dad was thrilled. And we become a part of this community. And I'm baptized, communion confirmed over the next few years. I'm a fully certified Catholic. I'm no longer Catholic. I like to say I'm Reformed. But I have a deep understanding of Christianity and Catholicism and stuff because it was a big part of my life as I was a kid. Particularly after Mum passed, I was looking for a place to belong, and these people gave me a place to belong, like that church and the community in it and everything. They were really nice people. I always say that. I have my issues with organized religion, but not all it's not all bad. And if you follow the fundamentalism of the message, it can be a very nice message. It's just humanity twists the message and it ends up being what it becomes. But my mum, you know, she needed a godmother since she was going to be baptized. And Sister Frances, a nun at the church, became mum's godmother. And Sister Carmel became mine, and they were the nicest ladies. Now, as I would do religious study at St. Pius, the kids that went there, because I went to Olympic Village Primary School, kids that went to St. Pius, a bit snooty, all that, they didn't like the nuns. They were playing into this trope that they were mean and stuff. But Sister Frances and Sister Carmel were lovely people. And they spent a lot of time with dad and I after mum passed and cared for us and showed us love and compassion and understanding. And here's a photo. I'm putting my hand up probably because my man TDs are out. A very badly decorated tree there. Dad probably left it to me. There's Sister Frances, that's mum's godmother. She came over to visit and she brought me gifts. And it was so nice, and she's got a photo album there I can see, and I think, we're showing her photos and talking about how life's been going, everything. You can see presents under the tree there. We didn't have a lot, but what we did have, we turned into making it Christmas something special. And I think it was important to me for Christmas to be something special, and dad just let that go because maybe it reminded him of mum, because even if dad didn't particularly care for me, I do believe he loved mum. And it's hard when you love this woman and you have a tough relation because you're both bipolar. And all of a sudden she passes away at a very young age of 45, and you're left with this son. You don't know how to raise a son, you've left it to her. And you may be resentful that now this is your life. And it was tough, but credit to dad, Christmas was still Christmas. He let me make it Christmas. Um, yeah, I'm looking at the tree. Way too much tinsel. What have we done? It is a hot mess, that tree. I don't know. It's still beautiful, but yeah, Sister Frances with a beautiful smile there. What a nice lady. But yeah, like she'd come over, and that's what I mean. Like people we cared about would come over and visit, and it was really cool. And when I was thinking about the transition out of toys, we always talk, you discover the gender that you're into. I was about to say opposite sex, but some of you decided that the same sex was what you're into. Um, but I was a slow take on learning how to ride a bike. My youngest is just like his dad, and he is fighting it harder than I did. I had a lot of coordination issues, and I fine motor skills were not my thing. But instead of getting a Snake Mountain or Ecto One or something one year, here I am. Look at this hunk. I got a BMX bike. And I didn't even think of, what does that mean? This is a transition away from toys, isn't it? A transition into a broader world because now you get a bit more freedom. You can go riding around with your friends and stuff like so. This was the first time my siblings had all put in for this, and it was a gift from them. And it was a big deal for me to get a bike. Um, I don't know. The fact I wouldn't get a girlfriend until nearly 18 years old is ridiculous. Look at that hunk. Look at him. Look at those shorts and that sling. I thought I looked pretty cool there. Still do. Look at those tree trunk calves. But yeah, I barely eking out a smile. But yeah, a bike was a transition out of toys. Now, but I think about it, and then I think because we couldn't really afford good shoes all the time. I instead of getting toys or anything like that, my request would be a nice pair of runners or sneakers to my international friends for Christmas. So this is sort of where the transition occurred out of toys and into a bike. But I think having so many fond memories of toys and cartoons and that crossover for me wanting that feeling, wanting that childhood safety of the rest of the year maybe wasn't great. Maybe I got bullied at school. Maybe mum and dad were fighting over money. Maybe, just stuff was tough. You know, I was picked on by family and friends for being overweight. I had low self-esteem because of that. Still do. But all of these things, but Christmas, damn it. Christmas felt good. So getting things that remind me of the good parts of my childhood makes me feel good, makes me happy. I'm surrounded by things that take me to that place. I always say I'm trying to impress 10-year-old me, but maybe it's 7 or 8-year-old me. I don't know, just a young version of me that just wanted to be happy, and I mimicked a photo here one year of that's me with the Super 7 Snake Mountain and me with the vintage Snake Mountain. And it was like I haven't changed. Like getting that Snake Mountain, I already had Castle Grayskull, so I didn't feel disappointed that I missed out. But getting that felt special, and that's the connection right there, isn't it? It's you know, having a HasLab Ecto 1 turn up and remembering the feeling of getting Ecto 1 from Father Christmas. Um, you know, He-Man is strongly associated with Christmas time because even though I don't have photos, it's not like today where everything was photographed. Getting a He-Man figure every Christmas was almost a guarantee. Getting a wrestler, getting stuff like that. And I think it's that nostalgia and that connection to happiness and safety is where my modern day collecting comes from, and my modern day love of Christmas. I've got Christmas music blaring, there are lights everywhere. It's a nice time, right? Now, I have run myself ragged. My daughter has finished high school. It feels like there's more endings to her finishing high school than there is of the last Lord of the Rings movie. Return of the King. Like that thing didn't end, and this hasn't ended. There's functions. My son's finishing primary school. There's going to be a graduation there. We had Wrestle Rock on Friday, and I had to be at work by 6 a.m. the next day. Like, I haven't been so pushed physically and mentally by just function after function. I do not get along with my children's mother. So having to face her at functions and stuff, like it's been tough. But do you know what's not tough? Is looking at the Christmas tree all lit up, thinking about what gifts I'm going to get people, having those gifts, having a gift turn up for Jessie and wrapping it and putting it under the tree and waiting to see if she notices it and going, can you guess what it is? Gifts turning up for me and me not like showing, I think Jessie was initially worried when she first met me, but of whether I'm going to figure out what she got me or I'm going to take delivery of something. It's like, I don't want to know because I love the excitement of opening something on Christmas morning and being surprised. You know, people, and more power to them if it's few, of choosing what they want to get and then getting it. Like, nothing wrong with that. Particularly, I collect really expensive stuff. I can understand the want to do that. But for me, the fact you've put thought in and the surprise, even if it's something that doesn't necessarily land with me, like we've all received a Lynx pack, or an Axe pack if you're in America. But the thought and the excitement and the fun of it is what it's really about. And I think every time a package of a toy arrives for me, it's a little bit of Christmas every time. It's capturing that feeling. Now, it makes Christmas hard for my loved ones to then go, well, what do I get him? Because he gives himself a little bit of Christmas all year round. But that's what I'm saying. It's the childhood Christmas adult collecting connection. It, for me, it's that feeling of everything might not be going okay. But I tell you what is okay, Christmas. It, somehow it will be okay. Not going to be perfect. You have to have a perfect Christmas. Last night, going to look at Christmas lights, and there were a lot of crowds, and my family became overwhelmed, and it was sensory overload and stuff. That's not a perfect moment. But then afterwards, just resettling in the car, driving around, and going, Steph's side of the car, and everybody looking. Hunter's side of the car, and everybody looking, and seeing that maybe they don't like it as much as I do, but it's still a nice feeling for me. And I hope that even if my kids' year hasn't been perfect and it's had its challenges, that Christmas at least feels special for them because it feels special for me. And I do feel this this manifestation of mental illness around me, as I like to jokingly call it. But like this feeling is nice. Collecting's not perfect. It's frustrating. It has its ups and downs. I'm passionate about it. I'm opinionated about it. But I've made so many friends through it, like the Toy Power podcast guys, Brett and Sarah Owen, Davey Damage, Floppy, Colin Betts. Like, there's so many people. Then you get people like Quip and stuff like overseas that, starting loosely connect with via social media and stuff. We've all got similar passions, and it's a cool thing. You get somebody like Simona who, we knew just through wrestling many years ago, and she sort of dated a friend, and we lost connection and stuff. But we've got this sort of bit of a connection of here we are with families and stuff, and we both like toys and we like stuff we grew up with. How cool is that? And that's awesome. Like, and give me more of that and less of all the bullshit. Because going to people, how cool is stuff that makes us happy and fun, and that being our connection is way cooler than being connected by negativity and bad feelings. And I'm looking for that because I don't know where life's going to take me. My mum passed when she was 45. I'm 46. It's weird to me that I've lived longer than her. I don't know how long I'm going to be here. I hope to be here a long time for my children's sake. But what we should try and make ourselves feel good as much as humanly possible while we are here, because life's journey is pretty short at the end of the day. And if you can have a space, any space, no matter how big or small it is, no matter how big or small your collection is, that you can look up at and go, oh, that's the nice part of childhood, or even the nice part of adulthood. Like whenever you discovered collecting and cool stuff, that's a good thing. It's a beautiful thing. It's nostalgia, and it's a hell of a drug, as they say. And yeah, so if you hear me lovingly talk about Christmas and go, why does this maniac love Christmas so much? That's why. Why have I left that photo up there for so long? I should have done it to this. I did a closing monologue and I could have had this photo up, because this photo shows you how I feel about Christmas now. That's the real Santa that you heard me talk about, that my children see every year. We have that stress-free experience. What a beautiful soul he is. And that smile and closing the eyes is real. Because I said to Santa this year, "Do you want to? Can you sit on my knee, Santa?" Because I tried changing up the photo last year. I started getting my own photo with Santa again, not just a kid shot or a family shot. And he was so excited to jump on my knee, and like we were just looking at each other, and then he goes, "Do you want to cuddle?" And I was like, "Oh yes," and we cuddled and stuff. And for 5 seconds, or however long that cuddle lasts and the photo was taken, for that short period of time, I was here again, you know, and I'm okay to revisit that again. It's a nice feeling. But yeah, like I'd love to hear from you in the comments, on social media, at Refreshing Thoughts Pod. Where did you or under this video, where did like what was Christmas to you? What are some of your memories? What toys did you get? Did you get some main event toys, as I like to call them, like an Ecto One or a Snake Mountain? What are you hoping to get this year? Yeah, let me know. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Yeah, Christmas, it's a good time for me, and I get it's not good for everybody, but don't try and take my good time away from me. It's special to me. It's nice to me. And I hope you have a really nice and special Christmas or Hanukkah, or just getting KFC and watching a movie, whatever it is that you like doing. I hope for a brief moment in time you find some peace, find some calm, and are doing something that you like and love. Thank you for checking out Refreshing Thoughts. I am Chris Fresh, and I'll speak to you soon.